What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about Beyond Meat. I want to go over some of the data points, break it down on what's really moving it, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So Beyond Meat is up 12.38%, 93 cents a low, 123 the high, and 116 for the volume. 356 is the average, so a little bit low for the volume, but there's a couple of things that's really pushing Beyond Meat higher. One is simply the technicals. So 93 cents is a very, very strong support. Then 109 and 119 is going to be the next strong target / resistance points. I did post on my Patreon almost a week ago saying that it was going to bounce off of this 93 cents and go to about $1.15. Posted that right here, so you can clearly see why I posted. And for those of you that have joined the Patreon, that's where I also did kind of call out Beyond Meat's amazing rally. And there's a lot of other kind of similar stocks swing trades that I do post that are exactly on point, such as this. So I did say that most likely in the short term I see a move to around 92 cents and then bouncing to about that $1.15. At the time it was $1.15, so definitely worthwhile to pop over there and take a look. But nonetheless, technicals are one thing that's really moving it higher. Over and above that, I think just the fact that it was sub $1 was getting on people's radar. Not necessarily institutions, but more so retail. And you did have even Eric Jackson saying Beyond Meat is below $1. Even though I'm not that big of a fan of Eric, he does have a pretty big following. So most likely every time he kind of calls out any ticker, people tend to follow or buy. Again, either or. So I think in general, he did help the stock price really move higher over and above the technicals. And then Beyond Meat also did put out some right here. So they announced the conversion rate for their 2030 notes. It does still need the final approval and all that, but goes over the initial shares. So 572.7784 per $1,000. And then here's that make whole chart. And so dependent on kind of when it's converted versus the stock price at the time, these are the additional shares that it's going to be added to this right here. It goes over here. So the company recently issued 317 and change million for kind of issuance, and that's linked to the 2027 notes. And then it does show right here and up to an additional 120 million additional shares, and that's linked to the 2030 convertible notes. Again, it needs all the necessary rubber stamps and approvals, but nonetheless, this is new information. So I think algorithmic trading is really feeding off of all of that and really pushing Beyond Meat higher. At the time of doing this video as well, you have shorts increasing about 8,000 shares. So they're not doing too much. 22.41% of the free float is being shorted, works out to be 80.04 million shares overall being shorted. And again, a lot of people online are really kind of grouping all this positivity and this green day as more of an indication that it's going to squeeze. So if you believe it's going to squeeze, then have at it. I did a video yesterday on how I think just fundamentally like things aren't going great for Beyond Meat, but again, I think Beyond Meat is a very big momentum play. All it'll take is just one individual just to call it out and it should go higher. But I think the company as well really needs to get their act together. So let me know your viewpoint on that. But at the peak, it does look like shorts were increasing about 7.4 million shares. So they were attempting to really slow it down. Didn't really work out all too well for them. But aside from that, looking at the options, 3.2 or 3.12 million in calls, 2.87 in puts, and then 48% of all the options being done today are bearish in nature. From a bull standpoint, you see a consensus for it to be kind of around that 1 to 150 in the foreseeable future. Bears are anticipating for it to be sub 1. With today being Friday, there is about 2,000 at that 50-cent strike price and then 13,000 at that 1. It would have been advantageous for it to be roughly around that 2, but that's the downside of options. So most of that is going to expire worthless. Going into next week though, if it can close and still stay above $1, that is where it might be fairly advantageous. But when it comes down to some of the data, and again, for those of you that watch my channel, I like to break it down where volume comes from. As I already mentioned, most of the volume coming today is linked to algorithmic trading. And on the secondary market, we actually don't see any institutions buying. If anything, it's just a lot of selling, kind of mostly in the kind of first hour and a half of the trading day. But so far, 6 transactions, Again, all selling. These are some of the transactions occurring on the dark pool. And so given how active shorts are, it is fair to assume that most of these transactions are linked to them. Aside from that, just kind of watch for that. So 93 cents is going to be the following support level. So that's going to be something to watch for. And then 109 followed by 119. Like I mentioned, if you're looking for a lot of good swing trade opportunities or even just more clarity on Beyond Meat, pop over to the Patreon. I put out a lot of good information such as this well in advance. All you have to do, just put out limit orders and then just let it ride. And so yeah, definitely check that out, like I said. But aside from that, on the actual chart, today it's showing some signs of life. It did bounce off of that 10-day moving average right here. Stochastic RSI, very, very oversold. So a good piece of news, let's say operational, that is good, that will actually like bring in a substantial amount of revenue. That could really push things higher. One thing to take note of though is that you see a nice kind of starting reversal. So last time it did move higher, so kind of the blue line above the red, we had a nice breakout similar to what happened here. I don't want to give any false hope saying that we're going to have a mother of all short squeeze, but you might see a little bit more of a quick value push higher. So refer back to kind of those support and resistance points and the following ones above that if you're wanting to swing trade it. But looking at the market position, you see a little bit more willing buyers today than yesterday. Still looks like a lot of willing sellers. There's a little bit of a gap right here between that 150 and 179, so it could kind of go there. But aside from that, there's not really that much in articles coming out that's new information. A lot of them are just kind of talking about the news that came out with the convertible notes. So let me know your general thoughts on Beyond Meat. Are you buying? Are you selling? And if you are, let's say, buying, are you buying it for the actual fundamentals? Are you buying it for a momentum play, squeeze play? Like, why are you getting in? I'm kind of curious. And same goes for if you're selling. Are you making money at least, or what's your kind of general thoughts? I know I've brought this up time and time again. Some people might disagree with me on this, but if you do truly believe in any stock out there, really consider looking at options, because this is how you can make some very, very serious money. So for instance, if you feel that Beyond Meat is going to get back to, let's say, $3, which would work out to be a 169% increase just on the common stock, you can buy a long call and make roughly around 2,600, just over that. So definitely very advantageous to look at options. That's how real people and real investors make some very serious money. So take a look at that. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.